run them up. And the older generation has got to step in and teach them a lesson.
That's right. They got to step in. Grandpa knows best.
Old man Superman's gonna have to shave his beard and go teach and get out his belt, start whipping ass.
That's right. He does whip some ass though. So.
He does, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Although I wish there was like more ass whoopery of Superman. You know what I'm saying?
No, if anything, he's getting his ass whooped most of this book.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I want cooler. I don't know. I just want Alex Ross to go fucking crazy. Like you know the scene in Dead Earth with Daniel Warren Johnson, and then we see that whole fight sequence between Wonder Woman and Superman.
Superman.
That is intense, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anyone have any objections to me getting this started?
No.
Oh, I'll be quiet. Let me mute up so you can do it.
Hold on. I gotta do one more thing, before I get the Discord audio capture right. For whatever reason.
Are my volumes okay, by the way? Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
All right.
Is everyone... Manny, let me get a quick mic check.
Mic check. Hello, mic check. Hello.
There you go. Good. Right. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to start the stream.
Cool.
Alright, Manny's got his stream.
Yeah, I got the Rough Justice sketchbook with me too, so I can show a little bit of that off as well while we're going through. Anyway,
Manny, we're gonna have to arrange like trades and stuff because you have some cool stuff. All right, I just need to come over and hang out and look through all your cool stuff, and then we'll just rotate. We'll go around between houses.
There's no room in this house, but if you want to go through this little crawl space, you can.
I can't. I'm trying to get both of you on at the same time. Oh wait, there we go.
Well, I have to say, like, at least here, we'll have to drag everything out of this closet for now, but one day, this will be like a full-blown office, so.
Hell yeah.
One day.
One day. One day. Yeah.
That does not sound like any of the music that I think you or Kev would listen to.
I can't tell if Manny's is not loading. Hold on. I know what I gotta do.
It's probably because
some funny business.
all the rooms.
No, I just need more monitors. This is where I'm at.
You need to have this set up like in all the spy movies when there's like 15 screens around one person.
Yeah.
Or the Matrix.
Yeah.
You have 20 monitors.
Oh man. I wish. See, I have to like dedicate full screen windows to getting the sights of your beautiful faces. This is the problem. It's one or the other. Yeah, this doesn't look good. Well, we're looking at the same issues, Manny. So I'm gonna take you off.
Well, can you just zoom in or no on the thing?
No, it's because like you have to be like up on my screen for me to like get it to look right. So like I can either have, if you did it on Discord, I would be able to see you, because like I just have the Discord set to like swapping between. I just have too many tabs. It's really what the issue is. Yeah, but here, let me just full screen you. Let me get Manny's out of here for now. Bring Ben down here.
Get him out of here. If you want to, Manny, go to his stream.
Hell yeah! All right. Oh wait. As always, gotta do the plug. Oh god, I'm caught. I'm hooked. Oh god. Okay.
Don't die.
Myself some more headphone slack. Coiled up too tight. All right. We're gonna talk about Kingdom Come. God, this book is so good. I'm so excited to talk about it. But first, boom. Gotta plug the book that we have. If you are into high fantasy stories, monster hunting, I don't know, cool guys doing cool shit, just killing stuff and looking badass, man. That's what Renowned is. It's just a the whole comic anthology full of these stories. Monster of the Week with some characters with interwoven plots. Dig this. This is the product of me, Kiwi Spicy, Kevin Tannhauser, and Manny Tavares, aka the Manny Draws. We got them. We got them on stream. Manny, say hello to the lovely people.
Hello, lovely people. I'm Manny.
Oh,
I draw.
Manny Draws. We love it. We love it. And of course, on stream, Ben is currently looking inside of his closet and cannot say hello, but he will in just a second. Wet the whistle. But yeah, this is MBG live stream comic books, talking about stuff. Ben, do you have Time Police that you can plug on stream?
Yeah. So I of course was stupid and not prepared at all. So you guys got a lovely shot on my butt.
Hell
But yeah, the Time Police. Scan these QR codes. Go to these things. So if you're on Instagram, go to _Time Police and check out our book.
We love it. Time Police rocks. Ben's a cool guy. James is a cool guy. We love our friends who are super talented and do cool shit. Hell yeah. Y'all, this is breathing with your mouth, reading with your mouth, mouth breathing, comic book reading, ass kicking, trash talking podcast.
I still love reading with your mouth. I like that.
Reading with your mouth. A Mouth Breathers Go live podcast and stream. Oh, we're talking about Kingdom Come by Alex Ross. Obviously, this book is like, if you're new to comics, this is a very important book and you should read it. If you know anything about comics, that statement should be met with a resounding duh. It is one of the most famous books. It's like akin to like Beatles' The White Album or like The Godfather. It is just so seminal. Like, it's something that if you're into this medium, you are familiar with this book, because it's kind of one of the best comic books about. I mean, it's just one of the best comic books, period. But it's kind of a comic book in which superheroes and comic books justify their own existence, which I think is really cool. Let's start with some general takes, just general thoughts, impressions, feelings about the book.
Well, obviously, it's super beautiful. Thanks to Alex Ross being an absolute champion. But I think this was his second, one of his his first DC thing. I can't remember entirely, but I know he did Marvel's first. I'm pretty sure, and then he went over to DC and did Kingdom Come.
He was 26 when he made this?
Yeah, so
Incredible.
And his
that makes me feel like a piece of shit.
Right, but his mom, I think Lynette Ross, if I'm getting that correct, she was an illustrator back in the day. She would do a lot of design stuff, and that Alex Ross kind of didn't see a whole lot of that, but he saw that there's multiple career paths in the arts, and he was like, well, if this doesn't work out, then I can always do like what she was doing, or like there's character design, there's fashion stuff, there's storyboards, and then there's comics, like his love, right? And that definitely shows, like, his favorites being Superman and Batman, and if you look at his studio, that you can see it. Just Superman figures all
his
over.
studio is amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But I feel like him having his mother being like a professional illustrator back in the day has definitely helped him, at least guide him, maybe not like force illustration on him. I don't think that was the case at all, but once he found a little like outlet and was doing like drawing and stuff, she definitely was a big supporter in that, and I think that definitely helped guide him to be like the master draftsman that he became. And even looking at his sketches that I'm looking at the stream right now in the back of the book is those are just his like sketches, like his thumbnails and stuff, which is insane. That's right before he leads in with like color and stuff, so he's
I love the even like the rougher concept developmental stuff.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff in the back. You can just tell.
It's one thing where, going through college, it was for a fine art degree. It's a lot of, you're going to explore with different elements, and charcoal was one of those media that, of course, they're like, yeah, we're just going to do some, still life drawings, we'll do some live figure drawings, etc., but you have to use charcoal.
Right.
And, oh my gosh, like, I can just feel that that roughness, but it just allows for so much versatility and providing shadow and depth and all of his stuff in the back that you guys are showing, and it's in the back of this version as well, that I have. Those charcoal pieces, it takes me back to college, and it makes me wish that I was that good at 26.
Right.
Just amazing. I'm like, if the entire book was just this and not all of his gorgeous oil paintings, it would, I think it would feel different, but it would still have just such a dynamic feeling like the book does already.
Right. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
One thing I was kind of reflecting on, I was listening to an interview with Alex Ross earlier today. Well, he was talking about kind of his Fantastic Four book, Full Circle, which is also amazing.
Yeah. Different
but-
approach too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had me thinking because, like, you know, the interviewer asked him essentially, like, you know, what would this book have been if you didn't do this, and like, or if you had done it now at this point in your career versus then, and like ultimately I was kind of thinking about that, and I really actually do only as old and sentimental as this book can be. I almost feel like it's something that only a young person could make, because I feel like when you're
So
kind of
much
in your
energy.
early to mid 20s, it's very dogmatic in like its kind of worldview, its approach. Like it's very much like, no, comics are supposed to be this way. And I feel like being that firm and like rebellious as compared to like what this is a reaction to, which is, you know, the 90s kind of explosion of over designed characters, gritty
Yeah.
anti-heroes,
Just
your
cool.
post
That's it.
Watchmen. Yeah. Yeah, everything's dark and gritty. As Alan Moore and Frank Miller like to joke, the comics industry took away the wrong lessons from our books instead of making them like, you know, meta-contextual or, you know, deeply incisive or using genre tropes more strongly. They were just like, no, everything's got to be dark and gritty, and that's the way it's got to be. I really feel like, you know, this is a reaction to that, and that's something that I think young people do. They say art isn't this way, it's this way, and they're very firm about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys knew like the original run of this, because I think we all have the trades, right?
Yeah.
Or the collected issues. The Kingdom Come was only a 4-issue run. And when you see just how thick some of these editions are, because mine is very bare bones, it's like these issues had to be just jam-packed with content.
They're already oversized too. They're like 30 plus pages an issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Fantastic.
And what's interesting is with this, like, Alex was the one that actually came up with the idea for it, and actually did like a 40-page outline that would end up becoming what Kingdom Come is. So it definitely it did spin off, like you said, Manny, from Marvel's. He was over in Marvel. He did the Marvel series in '94.
Uh-huh.
And then DC was like, yeah, come over here. So he started working on that, and this came out in '96. So just 2 years after he had done Marvel's, which, you know, he may have been working on some wrap up for Marvel's even in '94. You think about that, a 2-year turnaround for him to start launching this. I think that's incredible, especially with knowing like his process and how he creates each page.
Yeah. With so much reference, right? So it's like
Yeah.
he's got his buddies, he's got friends and stuff, and other artist friends that are just like posing in the rooms with him. Sometimes his wife, sometimes himself. And then he, of course, has all those toys, or even making them. Like for the Fantastic Four book, I know he made Reed Richards a whole like a face sculpt. He did the Thing and all this stuff. So I'm sure he's doing something pretty similar back in the day, making these books and making
One of my favorite
time go
things
by a
in the
little
back
faster
matter
for him.
about this is that he modded a Batman kit essentially to be his reference for armored Batman. There's where is that? Oh, it's so cool. It's like literally he loves toys and he studies toys a lot. Yeah. He like built his own Batman mod on a toy to make it look like this.
Yeah. So he's just kit bashing stuff together.
Yep.
Getting that
Yeah, here's the
reference
picture of the
immediate.
actual toy that he used down here.
God, that's so amazing.
He's so
That
talented.
and I believe haven't they released one like McFarlane has put out a Kingdom Come line? I believe there is a um, Batman with like the exoskeleton and the full armor that McFarlane has released. I have not ran across one in the wild, but if I do, that one is definitely coming home with me. To give away just my thoughts on Batman in this book, he is my favorite character.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
I mean,
Batman's
shocker.
so cool.
Batman's really cool, but like old man Batman with the exoskeleton and
Well, yeah.
I
I mean,
just
like
I
thinking about like what like just looking at like old skaters and stuff and how they're not really able to get on the board much anymore unless they like break their freaking like they're gonna break themselves as soon as they fall, right? And you're thinking
yeah,
about Batman getting into the ring and fighting Bane again and again and again, and he just like keeps getting demolished. Like, yeah, you're gonna need an exosuit because you're human. You're not an alien from Krypton. So,
exactly.
yeah, makes sense to me.
Well, I know just character design for old man Bruce. He's still wearing a suit,
Right.
so
Still
even
classy.
though he's not in the bat suit, like he's literally wearing like straight up a suit. And there are different. I think there's 3 different suits that he wears. My favorite is this like white gray tone suit because at that point I immediately get flashbacks to what they're doing in comics nowadays, calling him the White Knight and everything.
Right. Yeah.
The series that Sean Gordon Murphy did. Um, but that right there, I'm like, oh, dude, that's the White Knight suit, and he's just in a white suit with the exoskeleton over the top. It is just, ah,
So
I'm
good.
like,
It's
yeah,
his
make
like shady business dealing Batman.
right, and he's straight up like when he's wearing that suit is when he kind of turns the tide in the story. So he's always plotting. I love it.
Yeah. Double agent action.
And again, going just to the art style of Alex, all of this, they're all gouache paintings.
Gouache. Yeah,
So, yep. So they're all like a nice water-based paint. I did for the longest time I thought he did them all in oil paintings, but then I actually did some research and I was like, oh, that makes sense. I mean, if you're gonna use like a water-based paint, thankfully it'll dry a little bit faster. Oil is always gonna move around on you. So for something like this, it's like, yeah, it has to set. So if you need to make changes, you can do it rather quickly instead of oil that, it either stays wet forever or once it's done, like it's done.
yeah. Yeah. Oil's crazy, but like having gouache, having it dry pretty fast, and I mean it's like the opaque watercolor paint. Very fun to use if you haven't used it and you're watching this. I highly recommend checking that stuff out. So, gosh, so colorful too. Goodness.
It's honestly like I found as I was reading it this time that it's actually like very hard to follow at times, quite honestly. Like there's so much visual information and he does a great job with like kind of guiding your eye through the chaos. But like his whole thing is that he wants to pack as many details and as many references and like just show off how much of a DC history nerd he really is.
Mm-hmm.
And and the only way I could have even like comprehended half of it is with the whole like appendix that he has in the back where he literally just has like panel by panel every single reference to every single character throughout the book. Like he's doing so much. Like I didn't know who half the people were. I
Yeah.
felt like I wouldn't, I was worried that I wouldn't understand aspects of this the first time I read it just because there are so many references and like with the characters this book being old, I'm like, is this someone, did this really happen? Is this character like the Joker like villain here who's like the daughter of the Joker at one point? Like so many of the like new characters that they invented for the book, I was like, is this DC canon? I don't know what the hell's going on. Yeah, Ben's flashing up. Yeah, that guided thing. They have that broken apart in several pages in my issue, where they basically have it's the same thing, but
each one
The
of the
original people, the new people, and the like references to the old people.
each one of those is used as like a chapter divider, to kind of highlight like, all right, chapter 1 starts, chapter 2, and of course, like on those pages, they're just allowed to be gorgeous artwork. So all the references are in the back. Oh man, Kev, yours is flipping gorgeous. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the one thing that I hate too, because reading through it the first time, as just a doing the full experience, going through it, I agree with you. There's so many characters that pop up, and all you're told is like these are the children of supervillains and superheroes, and you're not told who's who. There's no name drops. Like I'm surprised this isn't called like the Justice League Kingdom Come, because it really does just focus on members of the Justice League.
Yeah.
I am glad that they didn't tie it to like a specific, they didn't say this is Batman's Kingdom Come or Superman or Wonder Woman. But really, when you think about the story just at a high level, it's those three. It's the Trinity from JLA that's focused on for the most part. You get some interactions with Green Lantern, which Green Lantern is freaking cool. Flash is cool. Aquaman finally, gets to celebrate his kingdom, right, and rule his kingdom. But all that is just background. They really focus on, all right, we need to continue to tell this story. There's not a lot of, I would say, establishing detail. So they don't show like, oh, this is, Atlantis. Atlantis is such and such. And by the way, this is what's happened throughout the years. Like, there's none of that. We're following our kind of our watcher of the story. I know that as we go through it, we see more and more of just the background interactions with Norman, who's kind of the questioning preacher, right? He doesn't know how to lead his church, and he's kind of faltering and wavering in that way. And so this is not just a story about superheroes and villains and the fact that, the superhero community or just superpowered people in general have lost their way. You get that microcosm in Norman as well. But I like following Norman around. He does remind me of just like the friendly old guy who you find out like, yeah, he goes to church every Sunday and preaches and tries to just tell people to be good. But he's having his own kind of crisis of faith.
Well, he's like the direct conduit between like this book and its religious themes. It's like just put all of those thoughts in the mind of a religious person and like a figure of religion as a pastor. Like, it's a smart device. I really like that.
And then you're basically looking on these superheroes as gods at that point, just like these mighty beings.
True.
Right.
And something like really interesting that I was like listening to about this book was like the direct like literal kind of like historical context for the Book of Revelations by John that like this is like directly referencing, because like essentially like the idea of apocalyptic like revelations and like why the Book of John or the Book of Revelations was like kind of quote unquote written was to be this like vision of like justice and damnation for the like oppressive Romans, and like that like just keep believing because like this hellfire is going to rain down upon people, and God is going to save his chosen people, and like that contextually brought into Kingdom Come is like so crazy because it's like the gods, Superman and the Justice League are these gods, and like you are validated in believing in them, and like Norman McKay is essentially meant to be this like the witness to it all, but also kind of explaining like that this this basically nuclear annihilation is like meant to be this like purging of sin and evil, and that like glory and God will rise out of it.
And And we'll get to that. Like, we'll get to the purging part. I have major issues with that in this book. But we can definitely get to it later on once we kind of talk through plot and everything. But yeah, it definitely. I like the biblical tones. Being raised Catholic for most of my life, a lot of that. I kind of shorthand understood what it is that they were trying to do. I often wonder how many new readers, or maybe even old readers, were kind of turned off by that. With the religious overtones. It does tie in nicely, like giving the setup for people that have that religious background as a shorthand. Do either of you know if that was Mark or if that was Alex that said, "Hey, let's start to build those overtones in from a religious perspective"?
Really good question.
I feel like it was Mark, but
I slacked, man. I slacked. I typically actually do research, and this one I just read the book and just love the book for again. And I'm like, I probably should have looked into some of the questions that I have, but I'm like, Kevin Manny will know.
Well, it's also unclear exactly where Alex begins and where Mark, or where Alex ends and Mark begins, I guess.
Yeah. But I do know, listening to an interview with Alex Ross, I know he brought up that people were questioning if he was religious or something, and he was like, it's an interesting thought, because it's like, well, if I say no, then some people might come up to me and not be careful of what they say or something, once I say no, they might be a little wacky around me. So it's just I'll let it be questionable, so people can come up to me kind of just am I gonna step on his toes if I say something, So I thought that was interesting. So maybe that got me thinking maybe not, maybe he's not the one bringing in those religious tones, but who knows.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just a happy accident. I know I heard one part of it where they were kind of toying with the idea of the Book of Revelations as kind of a through line for this, and they were deep diving kind of inside of the Book of Revelations and finding all this text that they were oh, we can use that, we can pair an image to that line. I think of specifically the line about the Emerald Throne in the shot of Green Lantern here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just
that's awesome.
So sick. Yeah. I mean, Green Lantern in this book, we mentioned it earlier. We'll mention it again now because holy crap, he looks so cool. And what is this? What is the name of this? Adam, or what's Scott? Something Scott? I don't know this Green Lantern very well.
It's not Kyle. Which one is that? I'll have to go back to the reference guide and see if I can find.
Yeah, he was very specific about the Green Lantern that they used.
Of course, the number they put on it that I looked at is wrong. No, that's not Oliver Queen. Wow, my book is wrong. In the back, it flat out has a 35 over Green Lantern, and it lists him as
Scott.
Alan Scott. Okay.
Our Green Lantern is the original Alan Scott version, having reclaimed that title and forged his lantern into armor, therefore becoming a self-renewing power source.
There you go. I thought he was listed in the book itself, because I'm pretty sure they also call out that it is Barry that's the Flash.
It's not Barry Allen, though.
Is it not Barry? Are you sure?
Yeah, it's someone else.
I was kind of thinking it was the Golden Age Flash. But...
where is Flash? Superman, Wonder Woman...
Oh, so this one says, the emanating from the Speed Force, the future Flash may hold all the spirits of the previous incarnations. So it may just be
everybody.
But when it explains it in the book, it calls him a he, which is I'm pretty sure I thought they called it out specifically, but
Flash
well. It tells you how much I care about details when I'm just staring at all the gorgeous paintings.
Right.
And,
we all got lost in that. Easy to do.
This is weird. Okay. Flash's evolution has the character become a godlike in power, a la his inspiration Mercury. All of the Flash's classic abilities were in use constantly, and we saw him as a vibrating motion blur, glowing red with heat friction and with small bolts of electricity licking around him. He is
Yeah.
always in several places at
Licking
once,
around.
stepping between planes of reality, thinking several steps ahead of normal human capacity. One unused idea was that Superman would be the only one who could hear him speak. For this evolution, Wally West sired a super speedster daughter who acts in our story as the very young new Flash, but apparently has no direct connection to the evolved Mercury like Flash. So,
By the way, like his renewed power set, I don't think they did enough with it. It's cool when they reference it, and there is one amazing moment towards the end where I'm just like, holy crap, he can do that. Which again,
yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
I don't know when you guys want to dive in and start going through like some of the plot, and we can just overarch some of these things because
it's simply too big to do our page by page analysis that we
Yeah.
like to.
yeah,
So I would say like I'm happy with just jumping around and kind of talking about things and like going deep into scenes that we want to discuss.
Well, while you're, because you had brought up, showing the Emerald Palace from the Green Lantern, we also have a nice, gorgeous shot of Hawkman being the environmental protector.
I love that.
You have the Mercury one where he's just bouncing around all of Keystone City, and you see this incredibly gorgeous painting of this massive city, just these skyscrapers and tall buildings with just this line, just going, this red line going all around the page, and that's the Flash.
Yeah.
Right. He does do like a little interstitial side panel, so he can show off one of his gorgeous blurred visions of Mercury or the Mercury Flash. But that all pales in comparison, in my opinion, to find out where Gotham City is. I absolutely love how they kind of set up Batman.
The reveal for that one was like the best. Just flipping through it, and then it's like, oh, about Batman. Silence, and then we just see people running, and then his city's under control.
Batman mech thing that gets a full page spread is so cool. It's just so cool. What an absolute understanding and mastery of how like Batman would evolve.
Yeah, he's like, I'm too old to move, so I'm gonna make robots, Batbots.
And like we've seen this idea in other Batman stories after Kingdom Come, but like it's usually tied to like policing and like authoritarianism and like fascism of Batman and like ruling through fear. Whereas this, and I mean that is directly here, but it's kind of softened a bit and like rationalized. Oh, I love this sequence with the cable car a lot, where they just don't care. It's like the opposite of the Spider-Man 1 sequence, where like the heroes just don't even give a shit that they're like putting all these people at risk.
Yeah.
And the tornado is so sick. Just the reveal of Superman is excellent. Just manhandling the two other heroes. Oh, looking menacing. We get the first reveal of the black S in the chest, which just looks amazing.
Yeah. And it's also that car that we see that like is about to tip over, and then he does the whirlwind thing, like that tornado. Like that's almost like a little animated bit when you flip the pages back and forth. Just like it's about to fall over, and then whoop, now it's back. And then what's happening? Superman. So that's a cool reveal.
And again, these I guess they're meant to almost be parody of like 90s character designs, but like Swastika, who's like got the giant swastika like tatted across his body, and then like that dude who's like the BDSM hero 666.
Yeah.
Just like really mess with my head. Like I just like could not believe that, like, because that is definitely a 90s like character, like looking. And like Magog, like I think I read that they were like, let's just design Magog to be everything we hate about 90s superhero design.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was so funny.
I felt that so hard because when I saw Magog, I was like, wait a minute. Did they like steal Cable?
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking like they stole Cable from the X-Men and like brought him over, and they're like, let's just give him horns.
Give him horns.
What's it? Is it Steppenwolf? Who's that? Who's that character?
Steppenwolf is one of the new gods, right?
Maybe.
Or he was one of Darkseid's minions.
Yeah, but I know Jim Lee did the did like a redesign or whatever of him, right? Back in the 90s with all like the armor plating that Zack Snyder put in the movie, Justice League movie. Or am
I don't know
wrong?
much about Steppenwolf's original design, so I couldn't like fact check you there.
But I just see the big horns.
Here's a fun fact when you go back to the 666 character. Funky Flash Man threw it out there in chat. He said he thinks there's a note that says Brian Azzarello is modeled as 666.
This guy, just like the nipple piercings,
Yeah.
really got me the first time
yeah.
I was reading this. I was
Yeah.
like, are you shitting me? He's got nipple piercings? And I love the one that's like, yeah, this character up here that's like basically modeled after a xenomorph.
Yep.
Like and like Alex Ross even mentions like Giger was like a big part of this design here.
Yeah.
I love the Minotaur. At first I thought it was a reference to Beta Ray Bill, but I was like, wait, no, Simonson was way earlier than that. I mean, it's just a scary looking Minotaur, so that works too.
Well, you find out like the Minotaur ends up hanging out in Athens, right? With Wonder Woman by the end of the book. So there's or with the Amazons. So maybe there's some Athens ties or Greek mythology ties, saying there's a Minotaur in the 90s.
Right.
I like this character down here. I think it's Nightstar is the name that they went with. It's the hypothetical child of Robin and Starfire, like Dick Grayson.
Oh yeah. Which, by the way, another great character design. I loved Red Robin. Like gave me such oh my god, I just lost his name. Michael Keaton. It gave me such Michael Keaton vibes when you first see him.
Right.
He's got the real skinny eyes and like that just Kevlar mask with the pointed down nose. I was like, I swear he just straight up stole this from Michael Keaton Batman. But awesome.
Yeah, it looks really cool. My favorite redesign actually might be Wonder Woman. The split skirt on Wonder Woman is so powerful, yet like so.
I love her armored up suit.
Sexy.
Dude.
Yeah, the armor up suit. I mean, look how thick Wonder Woman is. You know what I'm saying? I love how jacked all the women are in this book. Power Girl. Holy crap, dude!
Oh, Power Girl. She is a beefy Power Girl. She looks like she'd rip you in half, man.
She's like a muscle mommy in this book.
She is. But like to your Wonder Woman thing, I mean, even Superman does realize by the end of the book he's recognizing Wonder Woman.
It's like, dang.
I mean, they've always had the will they won't they thing.
Yeah.
When Lois isn't around,
Well, and we find out why Lois isn't around in this book, right?
Yeah.
Which, yeah, the Joker design in this book is crazy.
It's like a Jack Nicholson / something else.
But they gave him like the receding hairline, which I thought was just excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Old man Joker.
Yeah.
I just noticed this subtle detail here in this flight scene, how Green Lantern's got a platform right under Red Robin, and he's pulling him up in flight. Everyone else is flying around, and then like look at how stern Robin is here. He's just got his arms crossed, like just unbothered, and he's got that little foot plate.
Yeah.
That's connected up. I just like noticed that. I thought when I first looked at this, I thought it was just Green Lantern almost using like a propulsion thing, but no, that little lift. It's such a again, the details in this book just are insane. Look at this Power Girl kick here, this beefy leg. This is like a Street Fighter character right here. That's like Chun-Li thick thighs right there. I love God. It's eye candy. It's brain candy too, because the word's good too. Word's good, picture's good.
All good. Okay, now we were in this whole scene right here. It's really interesting to see the characters for the various factions of America that they have, which I'm not going to get in. I think last time we sort of referenced politics. It's like, I'm not going to get into politics, but it is interesting to see the warring factions that are in this book that are straight up like, this is America. No, this is America. Well, right. I don't want these people. Well, if you
the American Commando sequence.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Homelander sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all that aside, not going to dive into politics. Like, leading up to this fight where you get to see the beefy Power Girl leg and everything, that one-page splash is used everywhere. Like if you see Kingdom Come, like they're going to use this panel, but it's the one Superman in the center. You got Wonder Woman. He's flanked by Wonder Woman and Hawkman on the top corners, and then the Ray or whatever. I don't know what the star-looking dude's name is. Then Green Lantern, Flash, and Power Girl, and it's just you get those 7, and it is just gorgeous. It is really, when you think about comic books, like the cavalry has arrived, right? Good guys are coming in. They're going to take care of everything. Don't worry about it.
You talking about this one? Yeah. This whole... And again, look at Power Woman. Those arms, those legs, dude.
Look at.
We're going to have to leave Kev alone with Power Girl.
That's right. I love me a muscle mommy. Wow. I'm also a big fan of the Green Lantern spoon that happens in this panel, where it just gives it the drowning refugees a little scoopy out of the water.
A little scoop.
Just a little ladle action. Yeah, I do want to just look at America Commando's page again, because one, I mean, this is really the only shot of him we get in this sequence. But yeah, this is like this is so over the top. Like,
this is
I just keep thinking character. Homelander. Like, I just think Homelander when I look at that. With a gun arm.
Yeah, you get 3 shots of him. You get that one panel, the next page. You kind of get a side shot of him, and it looks really awkward because like the talons or whatever on his shoulder kind of hide most of his face.
He just gets ripped in half, basically, by Superman.
Well, so Superman, I originally thought he was torn in half. He just tears like the chest plate off of him.
Oh yeah.
You still see like his face and his chest and everything. But yeah, I originally was just like, holy crap, Superman just like whacked a dude, which, you know, maybe it's a new Superman. No, I was wrong.
No, there's that whole monologue later in the book with him and Batman, where it's just like, if there's one thing we have in common, it's that we value human life and we don't kill. Which, yeah.
Dude. Funky Flashman brought up Shazam as well, which Shazam just looks dope in this book.
Yeah, it makes Shazam an actual badass, because I always just kind of view him in my mind as like one of the softies of the Golden Age, you know? It's just like
Superman.
Yeah, cool. But I mean, he looks it's like simultaneously very Golden Age, but also very terrifying. Like this just panel of him standing over Superman. And then of course there's the whole sequence where he hits him with 4 blasts of lightning. It's probably my favorite sequence in the book, honestly.
Right.
That page is crazy. Because you actually think Superman's like down and out. Yeah, Shazam with the smile on his face. That kills me. Boom, bolt of lightning. Boom, boom. Just yeah. This is like the exact kind of like hurrah feeling you want out of a superhero book, with like over the top action and just the feeling of all hope is lost when these nukes drop, and Shazam, boom.
Can I tell you guys a dream that I have now, that I've gone through this book, and we've talked about some other things. When just referencing the Shazam, bringing down the lightning, I'm like, I want a modern day crossover where we see something similar happen. You know, Captain Marvel's just calling down lightning, and then freaking Murph from Murder Falcon like emerges from
Ride the
like
lightning.
hell
Yeah.
Bring the metal.
Good. Yeah. I also just think like Shazam is a really interesting choice, just to kind of be the like thematic crux of the book.
Right.
Because like he is that like tie from the Golden Age to like modernity, but he's also like part human, part god. And so he has to be the one to like almost be the arbiter of humanity's like eventual survival. yeah, it's just it's like pretty much over explained by Superman in the book, but it in not in over the like not an overbearing way. Just the whole exchange they have, and then him riding the nuke into the atmosphere.
Yeah. You just
I
throw
loved this
Superman,
panel cut, this diagonal across where you just get all that action and
all the
people eagerly
reactions.
looking on.
Yeah. Shazam!
In this panel also, we don't get a ton of great Green Arrow action in this book, but we do get a lot of Green Arrow, and I just love the design of Oliver Queen in this book. I love him at the boardroom table with Batman looking just cool as hell in his suit with his long goatee. I love me some Green Arrow.
I think one of my favorite panels is the panel right next to on the left page with Shazam standing over Superman, with Superman flying towards the camera, because it's just like directly from the movies, right, from like the 70s and stuff. I just imagine the was it Christopher Reeves just like flying towards the camera with that, and then gets shot by Shazam right there. Gosh. As soon as I saw that, I was like, there's hope, and then it's gone.
Also, one of the best, the entrance of Batman with his Bat Army and like all of the
what a painting.
his allies. That like I was like literally reading it, going like, yeah, oh yeah, like excited, like stoked.
What is the the old army movies back in the day where the cavalry would show up? It's like that. Like I get that so many times where it's like it is just straight up, good old wholesome DC, and I feel, I don't know if that's just the way I perceive Alex's style, because it's so clean and it's so polished that I don't feel a lot of the grit, even when, like you're saying, they straight up bring in the cavalry. Batman shows up, and it's not too far after Batman shows up that like Von Bach just gets like sword through the chest. And so, it's not like Alex is afraid to show blood and whatnot, but even at that point, I'm just like, oh wow, that happened. That sucks. All right, pretty picture number 2, pretty picture number 3, and just continue to. It's just so gorgeous that I don't know that I feel. What is it? You get too much of a good thing, and then pretty soon, like, it's just the thing. I hate to say that because I absolutely love Alex's style.
No, it's why this would only work as a mini. Honestly, like you could not do this as like an ongoing 80 issue, 100 issue series. Like it's just too much. Like it's overwhelming in its like 180 page state currently. Like yeah, where's that panel? I just want to find that sword stab panel.
It is the next page after like Batman and everybody arrives. So you need to go back if you're looking for the one where Von Bach gets skewered.
Oh yeah. In my head, I was looking for like a gold page, but no, it's got to be the blue death. Also, the blue with the red on the sword. That's just like a very anime blood drip on the sword. I love it.
Yeah.
But I also love that like everybody around is like, oh my god, like did she just do that? Like it, like they actually can't comprehend it. It really does like in this moment pile on the stakes of like what's going on and how we're like going to cross this line where like people are going to die, and like even just foreshadowing that people are going to die by nuclear annihilation, like just in 10 pages. But it's just the line we don't cross, and they love to do that with Wonder Woman, which I don't know how that's received amongst Wonder Woman fans, that she's always so hot-headed and like ready to basically kill people.
Well, she's the god of war, right? After a certain point, once she puts on that like armor and stuff, like she even says it like this is what happens in war, and then at that point, I mean, she is a goddess, and I feel like maybe that's her trying to redeem herself to let them like accept her back to her home, she's like, well, I was too soft maybe, and now it's time for Ward Diana to come out.
Well, definitely. And there also has to be the point of view that directly contrasts Superman's ideals of like we have to preserve human life.
Right.
Because like she's always acting as that voice of like almost fascistic authority. Like, no, we have to like be judge, jury, and executioner in this process to like. That's how we're going to bring about order is by basically killing those who don't agree with us and like beating down any insurgents with violence, which is what's the quote they use, like peace through war or peace through violence or whatever it is, like that is how some people think. Like the only way we can get everyone to agree with us is if we just kill everyone who disagrees with us, then everyone who's left will agree with us and then we'll have world peace.
Well, there'll never be dissension, never.
And like Superman just believes throughout the book, and I mean that's the whole thing. Like when he finally concedes to that idea and builds the Gulag prison, like it is the thing that leads to his end because he compromises on like what he values. He thinks that you can imprison and re-educate, which is like a very common like communist like kind of phrase. Like we're not imprisoning anybody, we're sending them to re-education camps. That is like how we're going to make them assimilate into society. It's just
Which, by the way, I know this is probably better saved for like off, but since I'm thinking about it, we need to add Red Sun Superman to the list. Just straight up go,
my buddy,
communist Superman.
Yeah, my buddy Nate was talking about that. He was like, y'all need to
so good.
It. So good. Yeah, so definitely put that on the list for sure.
It's very good. It's good because like it toes into like the areas of like house like into dark Superman stories, but it's not overtly dark, which I really like about it because there are so many like let's make Superman evil because he is a god and capable of like mass annihilation. Like, and those stories I find very bad. I really don't like them. I really do not like when they try to make Superman into something that he's not. He's always supposed to be truth and justice and the American way. But,
then you wouldn't get one of the best DC fighting games. Like, if you didn't do that, you wouldn't get Injustice.
It's true. But Injustice, the video game, functions a lot better as like a video game device than it does a comic book series. I don't really like the Injustice comics too much.
Fair enough. I can't argue with you there. But I think so. I want to get your guys' impression. We have kind of jumped around. You guys, I feel like you nailed Wonder Woman on the head, Manny, talking about the fact that she's very soft, but a part of her as well is the fact she's been kicked out of Amazon. So when it comes to just being able to show like true Amazonian beliefs that we are going to fight for justice no matter what, even if we have to draw blood. Or their perceived version of justice. Superman, to what you said, Kev, he does compromise his beliefs, but as far as like his attitude, he is very much the same Superman, just acquiescing every little bit here and there and everywhere until that breaking point. Once you see all the carnage that has been wrought by this nuclear weapon, then he goes straight up like evil Superman. Thankfully, that doesn't last long. He's able to be reasoned with, which wouldn't happen in like the Injustice version of Superman. What I love, again, they stay so true to the Batman character. Batman is just Batman. Like, it's funny because he's Bruce Wayne, he gets to smile more, and so you see like the full Bruce smile and everything. But he just remains constant. He's plotting. He's methodical.
He's a businessman.
He gets in. He's a businessman.
I definitely remember not trusting Batman the first time I read this book. I was like, this motherfucker. And then like once he like actually like turns on Lex Luthor and like they have Martian Manhunter posing as Billy or whatever. I was like, oh, he got me so good. I love getting like twisted like that and like just fully buying into something like that. Because I mean, again, this is the comic written at a time where like they liked to bend Batman's beliefs quite a bit in a post Dark Knight Returns Batman landscape. Like, you know, people really love to toy with the idea of Batman kind of being interwoven with fascism and like police state kind of stuff, and so they dance that line so well, and they just rug pull you so good. Mm, yeah, Lex Luthor used very well.
Oh yeah.
God, I
So
love this Batman.
one thing I have to ask, because we've kind of been dancing around the page, is once the nuke goes off and we see all the dead bodies. I don't know about you guys, but from a storytelling device, I feel like this it didn't show the gravity of the situation. Like, it is relegated to one page.
Right.
Like, just one full page where you see the destruction. And then you're immediately off with Superman. And part of me, I mean, I don't, relish death or anything, but just from a storytelling device standpoint, I wish we would have had Superman walking through the everything that just happened and really taking it all in. And then, if it would have been, because right now in my book it's the one splash page, and then you immediately go, Kev has the same splash page, you immediately go to Superman getting up and taking off. And to me, I'm like, I wish they would have really kind of let that settle. Because looking at it, I can tell a few of the characters as well that we've lost, but there is so much on this one page that I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, who's who? Who did we lose? Because, I mean, this is massive. Like, they took out a ton of people, and then you end up finding out, like, some of the people that I thought early on that had died, which, I'll just give a spoiler. Like, I really thought they'd kill off Red Robin, and, they killed off Dick Grayson.
Right.
I was like, no. Like, Dick Grayson, he's a cherished icon. You can't kill Dick Grayson. And this entire nuclear explosion, and then we see some after sequences that we'll get to. But what are your guys' thoughts? Like, did this sit well with you? Did it feel as emotionally impactful as you thought it would?
I would argue that the moment begins with the mushroom cloud, because once you see the bomb go off, that's very clearly like in our atmosphere. That is not in space like they were trying to clearly avert.
Right.
And then you have the all white page, and you see the despondence and the pain on Norman's face, and he's terrified. And then the Spectre says judgment, and you're like, oh my god. And then you see him alone in that panel, and then you see Superman alone in this panel, and that's when I'm like, oh my god. And when you get that page turn reveal, and you're like, no, 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 no. And then, like, I think the pacing of it, if you let it sit, you'll think too much about it. And I don't mean that in like a negative way, but like, if you dwell on it, then you're gonna like, before you even have time to like think about what's gonna happen next, you're already wondering what's gonna happen next because he's moving. Like, I think that that's a really nice pacing move, because it's like you get this moment to take a breath, and then boom, he's off, and that immediate suspense is what's gonna drive you to turn the next page. Yeah, because you're like, well, he can't be evil. Like, no, no, no. And then, of course, Norman's having that same conversation, and it works really well.
And what about you, Manny?
I think it sucked. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, this book is terrible.
Yeah, this book sucks. Everything
I was gonna
sucks.
say, I loved it all until this. Just burn it away. Set it on fire.
Like, when I saw, when I read this, I literally thought everyone died but Superman, and then we turn the pages, and then it's like everyone's popping up in the meeting and stuff. I was like, what's going on? Like,
Dude, so many people survived that
it was like, what happened?
Right. So where were the stakes?
Yeah,
like, again,
that's what I mean. Like, where's the steak at? Where's the A1 sauce at? You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Like, I thought it would be more impactful if we weren't seeing, like, Batman and everyone, like, just there. But that's just me, I guess.
I mean, I'm gonna have to say I agree. And I love the steak reference. It's a bit dry for me
It's a
when
bit
it comes
dry. Yeah, it's a dry bite.
because yeah, and I guess you kind of do see as you go through, and Superman's trying to bring down the UN, and Norman, being the man, the human element, is able to calm him.
Mhm.
But like was it Dr. Fate uh has rescued some of these people, but it's a mishmash of characters that it's like, okay, why that person? Like, why did you rescue those specific individuals? Was it just proximity? Because even in the battle, I can't tell like who's close to who or what or why. Flash lives, which part of me was kind of thinking we've made such an interesting character out of the Flash being everywhere all the time, all at once. Like, could a nuclear explosion just destroy his atoms? And then, we've lost the Flash, but he's fine. And we're going through the hospital, towards the end after the UN, and there it is. We see Dick Grayson and his daughter sitting in the hospital, and I'm like, well, I'm happy, but I'm still like, what the heck? Like, I didn't see him fall out of Dr. Fate's, nether regions or insides or whatever. So I don't know. This one, I struggle with the ending. I love everything leading up to it. It's a gorgeous book. There's so many interesting ideas. There's not a lot of. It's not very clean. There's a lot of nebulous stuff. There's a lot of things that are left open to interpretation, which is good. If you don't like people just force feeding you content and telling you exactly what to think, it does allow you to do that and process it on your own. But I feel like there's so many pulled punches, and it kind of leaves me a bit dry at the end. So yeah, I don't know. That's ultimately where Kingdom Come, I think, kind of falls apart for me. I love focusing on the JLA. They have it's a nice moment here, and then they're like, okay, that wasn't sweet enough. We couldn't make this sweet enough. We're gonna make it even sweeter.
Right.
So we're gonna add like an after credit sequence, if you will, in like movie parlance, where we're just gonna show the Trinity again back together after a couple of months. So, and then that's even sweeter, which we can get to that whenever. I don't know that we have to jump through the UN stuff. Like if you guys have anything else to say about it, but yeah, I struggled with this part.
Yeah.
I think it's fair, but it's also the part of me that wonders, like, well, how do you handle that? Like, how long? Like,
I'll tell
only
you.
have
I'll
so
tell you.
much.
I'll rewrite it.
I'll rewrite it.
I'm better than Mark Wade. Suck it, Mark. No, it's like truly, like, with all of this, like, the point of this book isn't the conclusions that it makes about superheroes. The point is like the conflict in place. Like the point of the book is the stakes, and that, like, how it all resolves doesn't need that much screen time, because you just need to know that it is resolved, I think, at the end. Because again, like, do I really want 6 pages of like, and then we did this to rebuild, and then this is how the UN deliberated, and this is how we did this, and we signed into law this act, and then we did this, and then we did that. Like, there isn't enough of a propulsive chain of narrative events where one thing naturally leads into another after that moment. Like, really, it's just like, I agree that the conversation between Superman and Norman could have been a little bit more substantive, like, because it does happen very fast. It's just like Norman's like, "Hey, wait," and then the next page, it's like,
Oh, okay.
everything's better.
It's the same thing with when they go into like the supervillain bar or whatever. When Superman's like, "Be good, otherwise I'll spank you," and everyone's like, and then you got some characters like, "He's totally right." Like, oh my god. I'm like, I'm sorry, but Superman saying that did not convince me a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm like, you need a little bit more power
It's
behind
like coming
that,
in like
but
your dad coming in and waving at you and saying, "Quit playing with your dick." You know what I'm saying?
like
it's
make
just,
me.
you're like, but it feels good, Dad.
Well, and I think that's a very interesting way to phrase that, Kev. But the Superman coming in, he gets like 3 or 4 panels to say like, yeah, don't be such brats, right?
Right.
And then Oliver Queen shows up, and he's like, well, so you heard his story, now let me tell you ours. And then we don't get that. And I know that's a very just way to move the story along, a nice little, button to wrap things up for a certain part of a story. But part of me wants to hear like, all right, I want to hear like an adult that's lived life, that has had to be around these superpowered people and lived their life around these superpowered people. And we know that Oliver Queen's not going to sugarcoat shit. So
Right.
I want to hear like Oliver's pitch. I want to hear him like be like, yeah, these super douchebags, like it's great and all, but you got to think for yourself sometime too.
I think the core reason they didn't do that though is to conceal the motives.
The motives.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that way there's still a mystery at play, because at that point, if you don't know, your odds are you're going to assume, well, he's working against Superman, so there's going to be some ulterior motive at play, some backwards thing that Batman is planning, and like we don't like that right now. Like is the way that it's all positioned in the story at that moment.
Yeah.
So I agree with it. I also think that like one of my like strongest philosophies in writing and storytelling is giving the audience literally as little information as humanly possible always, because if you can sustain the momentum of a story without having any like more questions raised than answered scene to scene, you have an inherent hook to keep an audience engaged. Like my favorite example of it is like the works of David Lynch, which are very surrealistic and terrifying. And every single scene that ends, you go, "Well, what the hell was that?" And then the next scene starts, and before you even have time to like fully engage with what you just watched, more mystery is piling on, and it's creating that sense of overwhelming like fear and dread and anticipation, and it's propelling you through the narrative. So I think he does it well through most of this book. But I think what happens there, if you're not smart about it, is that you write yourself into a corner and then have to have Norman McKay tell you the whole point of a story in one page, which is what happens in this book. But I think everything is amazing until then. Again, maybe this should have been 6 issues instead of 4 for just better pacing.
I'll just give me 1 extra issue. I'm not asking him to do 2 more issues, just 1 more.
Yeah, come on.
I would have liked more issues, more so to just see the actual like deliberations of new heroes and what's actually going on, because it's really just like these kids are out of control and Superman has to come in and slap them on the wrist and say, hey, knock it off, rather than like what are their governing philosophies, why is it effective, like what's actually going on, which you get enough of it so that it doesn't matter too much. But I think if in the modern age, if someone was to do this story over again, you would probably have that. You'd probably have an issue dedicated to like unpacking that philosophy.
I think this to me is almost like the cliff notes of telling an amazing comic book story. It's not too weighty. It looks gorgeous. It reads gorgeous. Like there's so much in this book that is great and amazing and outstanding, which is why I think it's held in such high regard. But when you're looking at being able to tell something that has nuance and is able to, like you said, Kev, really start to give some of those outside perspectives that are missing in this, that show there are things going on in the background, that people are really challenged by this, that they're struggling, or they want to do the right thing that we just don't get. So I feel like some of that's really missing, but we get boom, 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 like great story, amazing art, like all this, it's wrapped up in, hey, the book's great. I just think it would be, to your point, an extra issue or 2 extra issues And like this would be the thing where if anybody asked you what do I read, Kingdom Come would be number one, right? I think there's so many other stories that are out there today, or even back then, that are able to do it better. But this is a really good Justice League story.
One last thought I have about that is that I wonder if a lot of that context that we're missing is supposed to be wrapped up in the context of comics at the time. Like if that kind of media literacy and like that second language that you speak by reading comics and being engaged in the culture, like in the 90s, like you wouldn't want that there because you're like, I'm already reading Watchmen, or I'm already reading, 90s image shit. I'm reading Cable. I already know exactly what they're referencing. I don't need them to spoon feed that to me. Like maybe that's the explanation for some of the page economy and the pacing.
Well, and I think some of the missing pieces too allows us to revisit it in a much more meaningful way. I know right now in Batman and Superman, they are going back to, we've met like Kid Magog and found out what he was like as a kid, and then he goes off into the future, and now they're kind of jumping back into that story and running into the Kingdom Come Batman and Superman are running into the Kingdom Come versions of themselves and having to have those adventures. So having something that is not fully flushed out and buttoned up does allow for some of that, and it doesn't feel like it's such sacrilege as some other things might be. If someone was like, dude, I want to do a Dark Knight 4, everybody's going to throw a fit if it's not Frank Miller and whatnot. So
Dark Knight.
What do you think, Manny? What do you think?
I think you guys are great, and I love you. It's fantastic. It's good to be here, guys.
I would read Dark Knight Thor.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm flipping through like some process stuff in the other book. That's a lot of Kingdom Come stuff, and those pages are really really awesome. There's a lot of penciling going on with Alex Ross and him just prepping the page before he puts paint to it. It's insane.
Here's an interesting question that I want to ask to both of you. Do you feel, and this is kind of divorced from the actual contents of this book a bit, but do you feel that what Alex Ross and Mark Waid are kind of preaching and prophesizing with the state of comics came true, or was true and now isn't in any capacity?
That's interesting.
I'll let Manny
You know what I mean?
jump on it. Manny, get that grenade.
Get that grenade. Jumping on it. Got it.
I'll jump on the other grenade. So you get this one. I'll get the next one.
I don't know. Well, just like a lot of those characters that they're like riffing off of and stuff from the 90s were just like empty and stuff, and they haven't really held any ground. You know what I mean? Like a lot of those like 90s characters that they just were churning out with no real like backstory and stuff, because it was mainly just, hey, what's cool, what's on the page, like let's sell, and then they also had the wizard stuff, like ruining the market for comics and everything. But like the things that held their ground was like Batman, was like Superman and stuff, with that philosophy as we were talking about before of like, there's hope for humanity kind of thing, and we can get through it and all this kind of stuff. So it's just like there's a lot of history behind those characters too, and I don't know. I'm dancing around the question a little bit, so I don't.
Well, it's like, do we think that like we've grown past like 90s image and like 90s like have like
No.
has the medium evolved? Have we embraced the
I think
virtuosity?
Here, Manny, hold my beer.
Okay.
So to get to like the state of comic books now, I think in a lot of ways it changed in a way that I don't feel Mark or Alex thought it would. they definitely made a story for the time that they saw, because Image was that counterculture to comic books. And nowadays, I think counterculture became mainstream. I mean, if not for um, McFarlane, Liefeld, Jim Lee, all those writers that jumped over to Image and started making their own books the way they wanted to, we wouldn't have the Scotty Youngs. We wouldn't have the Daniel Warren Johnson, the Ed Brubakers and Sean Phillips, all these the Donnie Cates, the Jeff Shaws. Like, these guys just wouldn't exist because there wouldn't be a space outside of the mainstream.
Right.
And so I think they were writing, and you said this earlier, Kev, they were writing, referencing a lot of what they were seeing at the time, and trying to, just say, well, if this continues, it could lead to some kind of catastrophe. And thankfully, knock on wood, that hasn't happened. I hope that never happens. But I think some of the things, so that's the first grenade I'll jump on. The second grenade I'll jump on, it's not so much the state of comic books, but it is interesting to see some of the state of the way the world has changed that they hit back then. Showing some of the internal fighting, some of the fighting with others, and just from a humanity standpoint, how there's very little conversation about what's right and wrong, and let's have a discussion. You guys pointed out, Superman goes in, I'm gonna spank your butt if you aren't good.
Yeah.
And it's like, but Superman, like help us, sit down with us, let's work on this together to be good. Don't lock up people that don't believe the same way as you and tell them they're bad. Let's work with these people. Now, I'm sorry, Von Bach, I was told in the story you killed a ton of people, you're gonna go to jail. But these other people that it's like, we're shooting at each other and they're civilians, but no one got killed. Okay, well, we need to sit down. We need to go through some kind of sensitivity training, or I don't know, some kind of be good superhero training, because you're really screwing this shit up. So I think that's where they really started. They were right about a lot, but as far as the comic book industry, I think comic books have changed for the better. And a ton of
True, because I mean, a lot of the stuff that I have is mainly just indie stuff. I have one shelf that's DC and Marvel, and I can't bring myself to buy multiple issues of Spider-Man that are all different stories that are coming out in the same month. I'm not gonna do it. No. Now you put one of my favorite artists on
every
there,
book
I'm gonna
Wolverine pops up in.
Say what?
Or every book that Wolverine pops in.
Yeah, right. No, come on, what are we doing? Let's just tell a really cool or really good story with those characters. Let's let those artists do their own thing with it, and which DC is doing, and with the Black Label books and stuff. And then we have Image, like you were saying earlier, with Scotty Young and all this stuff, coming out with quality books and also better books tackling different subjects. People in other communities having a voice in that, and really telling something heartfelt in their perspective and stuff. We wouldn't be getting that if we didn't have Image in America. We might be getting it in the UK or whatever, but then how long would it take to get here? You know what I mean? So
dude, just as long as it took the rest of the UK invasion to come over here.
Right. So
crazy.
I agree with you 100%. I read.
No, take the opposite approach. Tell us why we're wrong.
No, well, I will in just a second.
Okay.
You gotta, the idea of the compliment sandwich. You say something nice, you agree with them, you provide your counterpoints and criticism, then you soften the blow at the end.
All right. Sorry, I'm prepared.
No, it's only because I literally was having this conversation with somebody, a buddy of mine, in my DMs when I was posting about this stream today on Instagram. where essentially they were asking me about indie comics and like some stuff. They brought up like the new Rom V book that's like blowing up right now, One Hand on Image, which is supposed to be very good. And I was like, oh, Rom V rules. Had a great run on Detective Comics, Venom, Carnage series that are very crazy. Like, they're cool. And they basically told me, hey, I don't read superhero comics. That is lame. And I remember when I was, 18 to 20 years old in my most like pretentious art school kid phase. And I had a very similar worldview where I was like, I don't really read that. But then I started reading the New 52, particularly the Detective Comics run in New 52, and that is what subsequently got me into everything else New 52. And also following creators, because obviously, like, you can talk shit about the current state of Marvel and DC in many different ways. Like, as much as I love DC, Dawn of DC isn't going great. I think the Night Terrors like event was kind of mishandled and just it was fine, but it was like, why did it come out 3 issues into Dawn of DC? It's like, we're trying to start something new. Why are you already throwing an event? I thought it was just messy. Which DC like is hit or miss in terms of their quality with their mainline stuff, which is why they're constantly rebooting. New 52 is good. Rebirth was also good. Dawn of DC is good, but they're not perfect. They have plenty of errors along the way. But if you follow creators, odds are you're going to find great books. Like, some of my favorite comic books of all time are Big Two books, like Batman Year One, or basically anything Frank Miller did, or anything Brubaker did for the Big Two. I love Captain America Prisoner of War. I love Gotham Central. I love his Catwoman book. I mean, Big Two now, Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, very good. Chip Zdarsky's Spider-Man, very good. If you follow the creators that you like, odds are that you're going to find Big Two books that you really like. Black Label Books is especially good at attracting people like that, whether it's Cliff Chang for Catwoman Lonely City or Daniel Warren Johnson for Wonder Woman Dead Earth. Like, you're going to find those books that you really like if you follow the creators. And those creators that you love who are doing the indie books that you love grew up on Big Two books and love that shit. So if they love it, odds are there's something to it, and you should probably read those too. Big Two books are in fact good. And like, there's a reason why they've been printed for nearly a century now. Like, is because sometimes there's garbage, but a lot of times it's really fucking good. Like, there's really good shit coming out.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, this isn't a bad thing. So I mean, don't think that I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say and think that it's Ben thinks Marvel and DC are crap. To your point, I think a lot of what they do right now is very sloppy. Especially Marvel. I have huge complaints with Marvel. I was a huge Marvel kid. Loved Marvel up until like the early 2000s, and then just fell off because they have the problem now that they still had back then. There's so many books, there's so many titles, there's so many characters that show up in every single other issue of the book and their book at the same time. Their book has multiple titles, and there's just not a lot of cleanliness. There's not a lot of order. So it's like, if you're a new reader and you're wanting to jump in, you're waiting for something like the new Fantastic Four to come out because it gives you an end and there's a clear starting point. Everything else, it's like, I'd love to read Spider-Man. I don't know where to start. Spider-Boy's out. What the heck, Spider-Boy? He popped up in Spider-Man. Okay, great. What issue? And then people, I don't know, like one of the 400s, 500s, whatever they're on right now. And when
Amazing Spider-Man's at like 700 something now, 800. It's crazy.
All right, I'm sorry. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. But when I look at it from someone who does want to get into superhero books, it's just so much easier to get into the indie stuff. It's so much easier to get into something that is a limited run, that has a clear beginning and end, and as a reader, not they, I'm going to own this. As a reader, I feel fulfilled because I'm getting a consistent story. I'm getting the creatives that started the story in the story, and I'm not going through a multitude of changes between writers and artists with different writers and writers with different artists. And I run into fatigue where I'll love something for 4 issues in Marvel, and then the creative team has a slight tweak or a full change, and now it's like, great. I love the story. I love where they were going, but now the writing style has changed, or the visuals have changed, and
100%.
Yeah, so I'm not
as a
sitting there-
Spider-Man fan, anytime I was reading through so much of it, and anytime I saw Zeb Wells' name on an issue, I would just go, like, I knew it was going to be terrible. Like, I was so upset. And like that is just like it is a nightmare to try to sift through. And like while DC's reboots have been pretty hit or miss at best, they're at least trying. Like they're at least saying, okay, if you want to jump in now. And then they write themselves into a corner and then give up, and they go every 4 or 5 years. They go, okay, well if you want to jump in now. Like, and they just keep doing it over and over again. And like, it's not always great every time, but like at least there's an opportunity to get it in. Like the last time Marvel really did that was like X-Men with Jonathan Hickman's like the Krakoa era. Like House of X, Powers of 10 was like a great in, but then like you had to keep up from there with like 8 concurrent titles or something crazy. Like there was so much going on, and like you couldn't even pick and choose or just like read one series and then catch up with the annual and then get it. It's thousands of issues of comics, and like Marvel Unlimited does not help that, because not only that, there's stuff going on that's not on the rack. It's only on the app that you can read digitally.
Oh wow!
It's yeah, for everything you see on the racks at your LCS, there's more going on just digitally that they don't release like on paper. Basically, they also use digital as their like testing ground for titles.
Yeah.
So they'll like if you're like new to Marvel, they'll go, okay, work on this 4-issue run of this random character or whatever it is, or work on a single issue, and then if that series is successful, they might print it to trade, but it'll just live in digital forever. Like Marvel Unlimited is nauseating to try to like actually sift through, because they have everything of all time. Like it's crazy.
That's wild. I had no idea that was a thing. That's how out of the loop I am. No idea.
No, I'm horrifically out of the loop of whatever Marvel is doing. The only reason I know about the only cool thing I know about is that book Jermaine from Acme was talking about the Avengers Twilight that Chip Zdarsky did, which sounds really fun. But that's a 4-issue mini, so it's like, again, if you're gonna get me into Marvel, I'm gonna read those books. I'm not gonna read 800 issues of Fantastic Four to try to keep up with whatever the hell's going on.
Right.
I mean, yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like I don't want to sift through all that, and it's mainly like I want a one and done kind of story. You know what I mean? I just want like someone's take on like, Green Lantern or whatever. I want someone's take on freaking Kite Man or something stupid like that. Like something.
It's just
fun
Tom
and
King.
silly.
He's the only one.
Right. Yeah, right. But like, but you know what I'm saying? Like, Warren Johnson's Wonder Woman was awesome, right? And then we got Lonely City, the Catwoman book. I haven't even read it. It's mainly the art that really drew me to it, so I just need to read through it now. But man,
it's like when people tell you that One Piece is really good. I'm sure it is.
Yeah,
I'm sure that it's worth the 800 episode ride or whatever. But it's like, has anyone ever told you to watch a show and then go, oh, but you got to get through the first 3 seasons and then it gets really good?
That's
like,
dude,
what am I gonna do? I'm gonna sit with my dick in my hand for like 100 hours? That's what you want?
That's what I said about WandaVision, when everyone was like, oh, but on episode 3 that's when it gets good. I was like, why? I'm not gonna wait until episode 3, so I'm not gonna watch it.
But we need to have a WandaVision discussion afterwards, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on why it sounds like you weren't a fan, but I love WandaVision.
The first episode, I was like, I'm not into it. Like, if you're not catching me in the first episode, like, I'm not gonna stick with it.
Throwback to like, what is it, 50s television with like honeymooners.
No, I
and
totally
everything.
understand. I totally understand the reference, for sure. But like,
I loved it. And then I knew that like, every episode after that, we were just building from the, 10s at a time to current. But I don't know. I think it was an experiment, and it came out with 50-50 results, which is why they haven't done it again. Speaking of 50-50 results, I want to get your guys' thoughts. We get the 1 year later mark at the end of this. So we go back to the superhero themed restaurant, and we get Clark and Wonder Woman walking in here. So Diana and Clark come in, and who joins them at the table? It's Bruce.
Yeah.
Once again, just looking resplendent in his black pinstripe suit with his black exoskeleton over the top. And maybe it's in your art book panels, Manny, or Kev, you may have this if he's explaining the Batman exoskeleton, but I swear he steals the neck brace collar
from Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I didn't see an explanation for it, but I just saw the simple, like, the shape of the chin, and I was like, that has to be just like the neck brace for Darth Vader.
I don't know about Batman, but I do know in the appendix of this like collection that they do have like a reference to basically every person in the background is like another artist and like a reference to a famous figure in DC history. Like every character in the background. Generally though, the epilogue, I love it. I'm a huge fan of this because it reinforces the idea of the investment in the future. That is what I really like about it. It's a nice reprieve. It's a moment of peace because again, the last few pages are incredibly rushed as to like how we rebuild society from here. So you show it in a macro sense, and in these pages you kind of get it in the micro sense that the trust and appreciation for superheroes is returned with the success of Planet Krypton. Great name, is just a reference to Planet Hollywood. I love that. I love the cheesy references to everything.
For those people that remember Planet Hollywood.
Right.
Oh yeah, is that not around anymore?
I've not seen one in several years.
Yeah. Rest in peace, I suppose. There was one at Myrtle Beach for a while. I remember that. But yeah, I just like, it's not overbearing, but I do love some of the jokes, like the dial H for hoagie and like the Power Girl chicken sandwich and like all of that. And
there's a shot in the background on one of the panels as like Bruce arrives, where you see Clark looking over his shoulder, and there's like the that dial H. There's also the different colors of kryptonite. So I love all those little touches. I agree, those are awesome.
Yeah, the colors of kryptonite are great. I love that they're greeted by mullet Superman of the 80s, like which they reference kind of in the beginning of the book with Superman, like Clark in the Kansas with his ponytails. Not in Kansas, in the Fortress of Solitude. I love like the woman behind them that's like, "Excuse me, are you using the ketchup?" Like, because they think that they're just being recognized as superheroes in the restaurant, where there are superheroes everywhere. Is it a woman? Is it a man?
Looks like a dude. Looks like a dude.
I don't assume gender, unlike you, Ben.
Okay, that's fine. I'm okay to assume gender. I'll jump on that grenade.
But no, I love this scene. I think like it's just a nice little touch. Yeah. It's also funny, which is a nice. It is that thing that gives you that thing I think we were missing in the beginning, or in the beginning of the end, I should say, where we're like, I wanted a moment to sit in this feeling. And that's what this sequence is. It is a moment for you to just kind of like go and breathe and just reflect a bit, which I really like.
Well, I also, just because I'm a Batman fan, you still can't surprise Batman with anything, because you've got the fact that Clark and Diana have a big announcement.
Right.
And Batman, who, I again, maybe he's being tactful here, maybe he's just being his normal pain in the ass, but like calls out, the fact that Diana's pregnant. She's like, how did you know? How did you know? Observation, for an ageless Amazon of your perfect physique, you put on a pound or two. I'm like, oh, only Batman would have the balls to tell Wonder Woman, you put on a pound or two.
I also am just a huge fan of all sequences in DC history where Superman and Batman show their mutual respect for each other,
Yeah.
and like the hug killed me.
Hug.
I
Yeah.
love the hug. Oh my god.
It's family time.
So good. And then we end with we get the Spectre and we get Norman on the way out, and even Bruce is just like, feel like
Ooh,
Wandering
that's something
for a
we can
second.
talk about. Is just the sequence where Norman is brought through the spectral plane into reality.
Oh, that part was so
We
cool.
didn't talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
we didn't
oh,
talk
the
about-
Flash. I know, dude, that part was awesome because we were talking about the Flash's power set.
Yeah.
So cool.
That, and also
The demon?
when
That was sick.
yeah, Dead Man.
Dead man.
Boston
Boston,
something
yeah.
something. I forget what his last name is.
Boston Brand.
Yeah. That is amazing. Where's my favorite line? I want to find the exact panel, but it's just like, hiya, you can see me even though I got no eyes. Pretty wild, huh?
Yeah.
And then he's like, this void is your realm? And he's like, nah, I just enjoy bopping. I always like to travel. Like, it's so good. Mark Waid even writes in the back matter, like, I was so proud of that line, just being able to like come up with this sequence. Like, yeah, I mean, it's a great reference. I love him in like later Justice League Dark arcs. He's
Yeah.
just great. Love me some Dead Man. Just the way the skeleton with the red cape looks is great. And then he's just like, you know, he's like, I'll see you on the other side. Basically, when you die, look me up, and then yeets off into space. It's great. Oh, so good. And it's also paralleled with the sequence of Superman and Wonder Woman sitting on the edge of the space station, looking off into space and playing with asteroids, talking about philosophy, and like
Yeah.
what's going on. So I love this breather that we have in this story with this like kind of 6 to 8 page sequence. It's great.
Can I, we just went over the scene with Wonder Woman and Superman at the end. There is just Mark Waid's dialogue between showing how cold Wonder Woman can be. So I really hope, Superman and Wonder Woman have a fantastic relationship and they never fight again. Because just before, like, Wonder Woman takes all the troops to go off to battle, and before Superman runs to Batman quickly before the big showdown, like, they share this quick kiss, and it says, her lips brush his with the sound of marble scraping steel. It is a kiss completely devoid of passion. It is a final farewell. And I'm like, well, apparently those lips have softened back up. She's got some great moisturizer or something, because, they got baby soups on the way. So
They got baby soups on the way.
Again,
that
that
dialogue was
constant will they, won't they that they
Yeah.
have.
And I think, even in the way of telling the story, it was great. Just that I get that feeling just thinking of how marble and steel scraping against one another, and just the feeling, that tactile feeling. I'm like, oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
If that was their final farewell, like if he never saw Wonder Woman again, like to leave that way, it's just like, you're a real piece of shit. So
You're
here.
a piece of work, aren't you?
That's right.
I love that we had Zord on here as well. He made an appearance. Was that his name from Power Rangers?
That was his name. The floating head.
Pulling from a deep well. I haven't watched Mighty Morphin in a long time. Is the Mighty Morphin movie, which is that the one, or am I thinking of Turbo, where they have to like go relearn their Power Rangers powers on an island and like Ninja Train?
Oh, yeah, I don't
No.
know.
That's
I have no idea.
pulling from a well that is not very deep on my end. I know Zordon enough, and I can't go that deep.
I wasn't sure. I know you're big on Transformers and your GI Joes and your Thundercats. I wasn't sure if it extended to Power Rangers as well.
Dude, I will tell you, the one thing that I'm very ashamed of, as a kid, I loved Voltron growing up. I can't remember half of what I watched from Voltron, so Even less so Power Rangers. I did watch Power Rangers as a kid. I won't be ashamed to admit that. But once you get past like the first incarnation of like the Power Rangers, I have no idea about anything past the original 6. So 6 is in like the 6 Power Rangers, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything
Jason.
we didn't touch on with Kingdom Come? This conversation
Yes.
veered into many different places.
There's lots
What?
of things we didn't touch on, but that's because we didn't do an in-depth panel, page by page, panel by panel.
I mean, we
The
would,
book is too dense
yeah.
to do that. It would take multiple episodes. Yeah, I'm sure there are lots of little references we didn't get to.
oh, there's definitely all over the place.
Yeah. But I mean, I think just generally the broad strokes we talked about the book are good. I mean, ultimately we've raised some criticisms. We've announced our praise. At the end of the day, no matter how many mean things I could possibly think of to say about this book, I still love it. I still think it's essential reading for comic book fans. I think it's a very important conversation that the comic books industry kind of had to have with itself at the time, especially. I think, it's important to have this book as much as it is to have The Dark Knight Returns or Watchmen. Like, you need both sides of the coin to get that money. The analogy fell apart as I was saying it. You need the mustard and the mayo to make a good sandwich. You need the ham and the cheese. You know what I'm saying? You can't just have well, you could just have a grilled cheese. I negate the point. Maybe we should just only read Watchmen over and over again. Maybe other comics aren't worth it. I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
that's it.
so
That's all I know.
I'll go in my final diatribe and then I'll shut up because Manny needs to talk and we haven't heard from Manny in forever. This book apparently is a lot older than I originally thought because I was trying to remember when I bought it. Of course, it was published in '96. Apparently, I picked up my copy in 2002, and I was really questioning myself because I don't have a super cool thing in the back of mine, like all the art pages and everything, like Manny and Kev does. I have a CD-ROM in the back of mine that is still glued.
What?
It includes hundreds of pages of incredible artwork from DC Comics top titles, plus bonus artist and writer video interviews. This has never been opened. I have never used this disc. I have no idea what's on it. But it just goes to show, it's a great book, and even though there's all that bonus material in the back, couldn't care less. This book is amazing. I do have my own criticisms about it, but when I think of I need a Justice League, I need a larger DC Universe book to read, this is one of them that I typically run right back to.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, I just can't get over the illustrations themselves. Like, I'm wondering if Alex was doing these like on separate pieces of paper and then like mending them together later on. It's probably the case. Just to work at a larger size, and then how big were the illustration boards that he's working on? Because I mean, he's packing so much detail, like especially with the crowds. Like, he's painting those tiny ass little heads and stuff when you can see people like running towards the camera and everything. So I would love, like, if they ever did like a collector's show or something to have these original pages up, that would be insane. Because that would be worthwhile, especially having like an artist collection edition kind of thing, where if it was like to size, or at least as close as they could get it, like how they're doing that Extremity book. It's just,
so excited for that.
yeah, and the Batman Year One book too. Yeah, so that would be insane. But I mean, it's just everything has a color palette when the scene changes, like when they're in the Justice League like center or whatever, like goes green, Superman's popping. Like all those skin tones and everything. Then it changes to like the office setting. It's very cold, muted, a little bit, little tidbits of sunshine hitting them, and it's just, I don't know, man. It's Alex Ross is the man, and he definitely illustrated his heart out on this stuff. And I mean, everything else, the fantastic board, the the Fantastic Four book that he's got out now too. It's a different approach to it, kind of limited, super limited color palette, but he just does whatever the fuck he wants, basically. It's
Old
awesome.
Funky Flash Man also just hit us with the "we should talk about year one." We will at some point for
Yeah.
sure. It's just simply one of the greatest comic books ever made, and I have very little to say about it right now.
Right.
Aside from that, but we will.
Yeah. Well, damn. Super good. Super good, guys.
Kingdom Come.
Kingdom
It's a good
Come.
book. Everybody who's on stream, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, for sure.
We rambled, we riffed. I hope we gave this a substantive discussion and analysis. I mean, I do really like this book. It's great. Go out and read it. You know where you can buy this is at your local comic shop. So if you're watching the stream, listening to the podcast, watching this on YouTube, go to your local comic store, you dummy. What are you
Brick
doing?
and mortar. Go say hi to someone. Buy a book from them.
And become
Yeah, odds are if you
friends.
tell them I want to read Kingdom Come, they'll go, "Oh my God, you got to read Kingdom Come," and then they'll give you 5 other recommendations. Only 5. If they give you 6, get out of there.
Get out,
Go.
run.
Don't listen to them.
Say
No,
it's too much. No.
Support your LCS, guys. Support local artists. Support indie artists like Manny and me. If you want a copy of this book, please hit us up on Discord. Hit up Ben. Get yourself a copy of Time, please. That book
Yeah.
rocks.
Kickstarter starting in March. More details
Kickstarter
to
starting in March. Join the Discord if you just want to chat about comics, talk about artists, talk about really anything. We're pretty much game for it all. Yeah, we love you. Good night. Good luck.
Yes. Good night, good luck.
Oi.
All right,